It works on YouTube. Great. This is me. Okay. Let me try to set it up. Maybe like that. Yes. I mean, there is this thing, but okay. All right, we can start. I think the live stream is also working. So people on the YouTube live stream can hear me, I guess, but I can check it later. Today we are going to work on a program software called ELAN, and this program is used basically for sign language and gesture annotation mainly. So what can you do with ELAN? Just to give you information about who actually made ELAN. Well, as you can see on the logo, Max Planck Institute for Psycholinguistics in Nijmegen, the Netherlands, actually made the application available. It's free. You can download it. Do you have computers with you, a laptop maybe? If you have, it's going to be great because so basically how this is structured is this. Let me just go to that. You see these wonderful icons. This is the structure of the workshop. So we first have the tutorial. I'm going to show you how the application works, how you can use it. And then, for example, how to create your first ELAN file, then like all the tiers and types, control vocabulary, all these different terminology. And then we'll have like a demonstration session. I'm going to annotate a video online just to show you, just to demonstrate how it can be done. And then we'll have a practice session, maybe like depending how many people have computers with them. If you have, great, you can practice. If you don't have, also great, you can sit next to somebody who has a laptop, or you can just be an observer. That's also fine. We don't discriminate. And all right, so the practice session will be also available, just maybe for 10 minutes or 15 minutes. We'll see depending on the time. I planned the workshop to be 1 hour, but I'm really bad at planning. Maybe it could be less, maybe it could be more. We'll see. Don't leave in the middle of the workshop. This is too long. All right, then let's start. What is ELAN? As I said, people generally use ELAN. This is weird, or maybe this is better. For sign language and gesture annotation, what do we mean by sign language and gesture annotation? We mean that so communication is multimodal, right? What does that mean? You can speak, of course, or if you use a sign language, you can sign. And if you're a speaker, you can still use your hands or your facial expressions, and you can gesture, right? This is also possible. So since communication is multimodal, you may want to examine speech data or gesture data or any kind of visual sign language data using a program called ELAN. And I'm going to show you how it can be used here. All right, let's begin. I didn't introduce myself, but you saw the name, I guess. I'm Onur. Nice to meet you. All right, so what is ELAN? Well, I have 3 bullet points here. And as you can see, as I said, it's a linguistic annotation software. I also said this, it was developed by the Max Planck Institute for Psycholinguistics. Great institute, just Google it if you're not familiar with it. And as I said, mainly used for annotating sign language gestures and multimodal communication. And here we see an example screenshot from an ELAN basically annotation. Let me show you, basically guide you through what we have in the interface. So for example, we have, let's see. All right. So we have the video. Basically, if you're using ELAN, you're going to work with videos, right, mostly. So you have the video at the left corner of the screen. You can zoom in video, make it bigger, make it smaller, depending, like your needs. And then you can also work with voice, like sound accompanying the video, so that it's multimodal. You can have sound and video together. So you can analyze speech and gestures at the same time, gesture of the person speaking. And here, one, all right. So let me, PDF is the worst file ever. Okay, so here, this is the annotation, basically, where we do our annotations. We just use our mouse to basically click and drag and basically create our annotation. So here, for example, you see that this is highlighted with blue, this particular section. So I just basically clicked and dragged that specific time frame, and I annotated that time frame. For example, you can say, if you are coding sign language, you can say, you can have glass as one annotation. Like, what does this sign mean? You can basically click, pick a sign from the video, pick a time frame, and basically write what the sign is, write the gloss of it, or translate to English, translate to Turkish. This is what you can do, or you can encode grammatical structures through here. So basically, it works like that. And for resources, all right, so there are great resources available. I'm going to share the presentation with you online. So you can always access it for later and click on the links if you want to. One great documentation is ELAN, basically the MPI website that actually came up with the app, created that. So if you go to this link, let's see if it works. All right, you can, there is a full manual on how to use ELAN here, and like the guides and everything you can access here. This is a great resource. The first resource you should go to. Another good resource is ELAN port, which was developed by Beyza Sümer. And through her website, personal website, you can access ELAN port. There are, I think, up to 12, 13 short videos, like tutorial videos on how to use ELAN. So when you when this workshop is complete and you forgot everything about ELAN, you can go back to these videos and relearn. If you ever want to use ELAN for later, you can relearn and remember things watching these videos prepared by Beyza Sümer. This is also a great resource. And for example, you want to analyze something using ELAN, but you don't have any data, you don't have any videos, you don't have any sound clips. What then? Again, on the website, Max Planck Institute, there is a big archive for multimedia corpora. So there are, some of them are open access. You can download them. For example, you can download gesture videos or just speech data or together or sign language data. And you can basically, some of them have ELAN files, like all the annotations in them. So you can also download stuff and try to use ELAN on them. We are going to do that for our purposes. And if you want to study Turkish Sign Language, for example, or, well, here I just gave the example for TIT, Turkish Sign Language. There is a corpus for TIT signs, all the lexical signs in TIT, like, for example, what is father, mother, all these kind of words. I think it's a great resource. You can also visit titsözlük.net to work on something with ELAN. Our program is like that. I went over it. Let's see how we are doing on YouTube. Are there any questions or you can hear me? So, okay. We have 3 eager participants online. Then let's continue. Installing ELAN. So if you want, you can do that for later. You'll have the slides in a moment, not just yet. But if you type on Google or any search, basically engine, and type install ELAN, you'll find this website. So no worries. You can download ELAN. There is a Windows app suitable for appropriate for Windows, compatible Mac OS or Linux. You can download the correct ELAN. After you do that, you'll see something like that, but you won't see the video because you're going to basically drag the video yourself. But there is nothing on it, right? So let's create let's basically create an ELAN for scratch. So here, I'm just going to go to files. Let me say no to that. All right, let me go to file if I can, but I can't. Anyway, okay, let's try to open up ELAN, close it, open it. All right, then I'm going to basically open up the application. When it's open, it's all blank. You have to basically find a video or just any corpus and basically drag it to ELAN. So I have it here. For example, I downloaded, remember Tit Sözlük, Dictionary for Turkish Sign Language, I downloaded one video. And I'm going to download, basically drag it when I open the application ELAN, drag it here. So it's going to open up an ELAN file from scratch for me. So when I drag the video, it basically open up one example. So let's see what is here, what is in it. All right, we have the video just as we wanted. We can make the video bigger just by dragging this thing here. This part on the left, bottom left, is where we do our annotations. We will annotate stuff here. And you can also basically detach the video from the software and you can make it full screen. Also, it can be important to see all the details if you want to study something in detail. So this is also possible, right? And so let me show you what is also available. As I said, these going to be like this. It says default here, but you can create new tiers. That's what I'm trying to say. You can translation, glass, left hand, right hand, like stuff like that. You can create new tiers and start annotating each tier. And this is just that. And here, you see the arrows here. So this is the play button. The video starts, no surprise. And so the next arrow button basically goes pixel by pixel. So it moves actually, but pixel by pixel. So if you want to see something maybe very quick happening in the video, you can go pixel by pixel if you want to annotate that. Or you can go frame by frame, next button. It is a little bit faster, frame by frame, you can do that. Or it can move in laps here, as you can see. You can go to the beginning of the video with the most left arrow, or end of the video with the most right arrow, as you see here. So basically, let's watch the video first and try to see what happens. So this is a sign for car or drive. So after the lexical entry car, she signs car. She will give an example sentence, including the word car. So the next part is that. So for example, she's saying a few weeks ago, let's see what she's saying. So her car broke a few weeks ago, for example. And she's trying to repair it. So that's what she's basically saying overall. And we have like one lexical item and one sentence after it. We can do stuff with it using ELAN. So far, so good. There are also, let me show you finally, like the last thing about the interface. Let me also show you the top right part. Here you can see grids. We don't have any tiers, but this is just like a search tool. Search for your annotation. You can search for your annotation here. You can see a list of everything. Text, subtitles, if you have subtitles, lexicon, comment, and most importantly, controls. There is a control section. You can make the rate of the video larger or smaller. What does this mean? Let's see. Basically, the speed of the video. It is speeded here, as you can see. Or you can make it slower. You can slow down the video if you want to really study it detail. So we slow down. So the signs are very slow. You can basically do that. And all right, let's go back to our slides. This is the interface. I told you about the video navigation, panels, set. All right, so let's begin. Let's try to add our tier. Basically, what is a tier? Tier is something you annotate, right? Anything of your interest. It could be gloss, it could be translation, it could be motion events encoding, for example. Whatever you want to analyze for your research, you can create tiers for them. To add new tiers, let's go to our file. I go to tier, not surprisingly, add new tier. And then, I don't know if you can see it, but there are options. It's first asking us to write a tier name. So let's, for example, write class, like what it means in TIT, using conventions of TIT plotting. Then you can optionally add the name of the participant. Of course, it's not very ethical to add the full name, but you can give pseudonyms for the participant. Like you can say E1, for example, for the participant name. Annotator, this is important because more than just one person can be working on an ELAN file. So it can be important to know which person has annotated that section. So I'm going to write my name for the annotator part. Then for parent tier, let's not go into that just now. Tier type default, so we don't change that. So this is enough to just create one tier. I click on add and then close it down. What you see here, basically, we added a new tier, this is the green one. We added a tier called class, then we can start annotating stuff. For example, I want to annotate the first words in this video clip, car. So let's find. First, I went to the beginning of the video and I basically, this is slowed down version, remember, you can make it the original speed. Okay, it starts from maybe here, yeah, and the end is here. So we can basically go next to gloss and double click to write something on it. Just did our first annotation. So we can say car here. So this is how you can annotate. You can annotate multiple tiers on ELAN, depending on what you need, of course. And let's go back. Okay. Then there is something called the parent tier and the child tiers, of course. So let's try to see what these stand for, what these really mean. First, we are going to create a type. So what this means is that, let me just explain this using an example. For example, let's say that I want to create a new tier like left hand and right hand, two other tiers, left hand and right hand. So left hand and right hand tiers will not be independent from the sign tier. So maybe I just want to say that whatever I picked for the sign tier, like whatever the time frame is, for example, left hand and right hand, what the left hand is doing, what the right hand is doing, I want it to be annotated in the same time frame with the sign one. So like something like that, right? This same interval, I want to have different tiers, but all sharing one single parent, which is a sign. So like children, basically child tiers of that. You can do that using ELAN, and this might be time saving for you. To do that, basically, we can create, let's change the name of the annotation by double clicking again. And let me write the Turkish one, all capitals, Araba, the Turkish translation. Then I basically go and I want to write the English translation, another tier, English translation. And English translation will be the child tier of gloss, for example. So first to do that, I need to, so let me show you on the PDF. I create here, instead of writing an English translation, we created something called type. For example, you can write verb, noun, whatever, like whatever the tag is. Let's do that. It's also fine. We start with creating a type. That's basically. Next to tier, we have type. We click on add a new type. Then type name, coincidentally having the same name, I created another basically annotation for type. Or you can write tag, US tag, part of speech tag, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't have to be called type, basically, any tier that you want. And let's go back to our PDF file. So there are a few options for the stereotype part, and this is the most important. time subdivision and include it in. So let's for now use time subdivision. And we don't use control vocabulary, that's for later. I click on add, but wait, nothing has been added to the left tier part because we didn't create a tier, we just created a type. Then we need to create a tier having the same type. So it's like double step. And then I go to tier again. I have to create the tier for the type that I created before. So I write, they should have the same name. I write the tier name as type. And then participant, it doesn't really matter, but let's write P1 and write so my name as an annotator. So here, I can basically pick parent tier as glass. Glass now can be the parent for our new tier called type. And then the tier type will be type because we created a type called type, confusing before, but if we didn't create a type before, this option wouldn't be visible. We created the type before called type. Then when we are creating the tier for type, we choose type as type. Sorry for naming and bad naming stuff. All right, then input method doesn't really important, it's not important. All right, then we finally meet our tier called type. So what we can do here, just pick the first annotation, araba. Then when you pick it and double click on type, it automatically, we don't have to drag now. It automatically picks the same time frame shared by our first parent tier. So it's the child tier and it's the same time frame with our parent tier. This is time saving. You can do that if you want. So for type, I can write, well, this is a now. If I'm interested in this basic research, which I can say now. So why did we create types at all? Basically, okay, we did that. We create the type to be able to add controlled vocabulary, something called controlled vocabulary. So let's say that, for example, I don't really want to spend 90 hours on ELAN, coding, annotating stuff, and manually. And maybe in my annotation, there is not an infinite number of options. Maybe there is just a limited number of options. Like, for example, just like part of speech tags. It's going to be always among nominal, for example, you can add more, of course, verbal, nominal. For sign language, you can have classifiers, different adjectives, adverbs, prepositions for spoken languages. You have a limited range of options, right? You can have the same number of options included in the annotation type. So this is called controlled vocabulary. To add this information, we needed the type. We needed to create a type for a tier. So how to add that? Well, we first go to edit, edit controlled vocabulary. Since we don't have any now, we have to add new one. And then we can add basically tag options for our annotation. So let's do that. I go to edit. I go to edit control vocabularies. All right, so we don't have anything. Let's call this control vocabulary is name as, let's say, type, because mine is. Then I click on add. So there is now type. Now we need to enter values, right? So the edit control vocabulary can have the following values. They can have nominal, for example. Nouns, let's say. They can have adjectives, as. It can have adverbs, and. So perhaps not applicable for sign language, but still, just to give an example. Or what are some other possible verbs, verbal constructions. So let's just work with those. After I do that, I just close it, right? But let me choose something. For example, so here's the sign that is saying I, using the first person subject pronoun, then I. And then I would like to say this is a pronoun, or this is a noun, whatever. So when I click on type, nothing appears because we created the control vocabulary, but we didn't associate the vocabulary with our type. So we need to do this association for us to see the options. So to do that, let's go to our PDF, because it took some time to take these screenshots. So let's use PDF. So to add, basically, we change the type that we created before. We don't add a new type, but we change it. Let me show you. So we go to type, change tier type. Okay, change. You see, there is already created type before that we create. So I'm just going to go to control vocabulary and choose type, because this is what we created. Then I'm going to say change. It changed now. It has also vocabulary. So when I pick the same, I pick the glass, then I pick the type. Here we have options now. We don't have to write them manually. So we can have vocabulary, we can have options. There is not a pronoun option, but still, let's go with not adjective, but nominal. And let's also do the same for araba, car. Let's pick nominal again. So this is how you can use control vocabularies. Don't sleep just yet. There are a few things left, but then we are going to be over with them. And we are going to have an interaction session, which is really fun. Okay, so let's go to our PDF. You did your annotation, you spent hours or decades on your annotation, depending on the length of your video or your speech. And you have to export, of course. Let's say you want to do statistics on it. You have the option to export this as a CSV file or as an Excel file. So you can work with the time points, like time frames, annotated words, what you annotate here as an Excel file, as a CSV, and you can maybe do some statistics on them, or you can basically use them for describing linguistic phenomena in your paper. So how to export after you do your annotation? Well, basically, you go to Files, you go to Export As, and there are many options. You can even export as HTML. You can create your websites. But we're just going to choose tab limited text. And here it asks you, like, okay, you have the following tiers. Which one would you like to be, what would them to be included here in your Excel file? You choose whatever you want to be included. Then there are also other output options, like separate column for each tier. Would you like that? There are many other possible things. For example, you can say, well, I'm not finished with the annotation. I just want to export, let's close. I just want to export what I select here. So let's say, okay, I just want to export this portion because I'm not finished with the later ones. So you can also do that by going to, again, export as, tab delimited text. And here you can say restrict to the selected time interval. And it will basically only take whatever you select. And you can also include time columns like the begin time for a sign, the begin time for a gesture, the begin time of a word, spoken word, end time. Would you like that information to be in hours, minutes, seconds, or something else, milliseconds, whatever, what you want. So there are many other options. Would you like to have the duration for each sign? It automatically calculates that. For example, you have the beginning time, you have the end time, it subtracts, and then it gives you the duration of the sign if you're interested in this question, how long it took for the participant to make the gesture or make the sign. So yeah, this is basically how we can export. We're almost done. And you can also use the grid to browse your tiers. As I said, there are like panels on the top right. And the first one is called the grid. I'm going to show you an example of an already annotated file, like how like a real ELAN annotation looks like, because this is not very authentic because it's not been completed. But I can show you just, for example, from my own research, I collected data from signers, adult deaf signers of Turkish Sign Language, and we had them watch Tom and Jerry video clips, and they had fun. We also had fun watching them. And they narrated the cartoon clips to the camera. And then we have the video footage of that. So, and I annotated for 123 hours. So for example, there are many 30 participants. Let me choose just a random one. We have a favorite number. So 14. Let's open up number 14. I don't have the video, so it's not important. You can open up an ELAN annotation file without the video if you want. So it is asking me to click on the video, please. But I'm just going to cancel. It's going to give me the annotations anyways. So this is a real annotated ELAN. The first one was also real, but not complete. Okay, so let me make it bigger. All right, so you see the black lines here. This is where I annotated the blank parts, but I didn't annotate, of course. So here, this is the first narration. This is the first narration. We have many tiers, we have many types, and many hours lost in the process. Oh yeah, so for example, I was interested in this course, pragmatics. I called some reference as introduced reference, maintained reference, reintroduced into the context. I coded that. Then we have the, let's call it POS, grammatical category. For sign line, we have point now. So they first did a point, then they signed a now. What it is, like the grammatical category, the manual part of it. And then we have plus here, işaret. Then we have Turkish translation of the sentence, because these are sentences, multiple clauses. So it continues like that. There are 10 video clips, so there are 10 narrations, there are 10 different annotation parts, as you can see for each signer. So yeah, something like that. But how can we use the grid part? How are we doing with the YouTube? Let's see. We gained another audience member, which is great. But there seem to be no questions on YouTube. Whereas this makes me think that you are thinking and you don't have questions. Great, you are processing information. All right, so, well, we have 9 views in total. We are popular, guys. All right, so I look funny. I am distracted. Great. Right, so using the grid part. How can you use the grid? Well, let's go to ELAN. Remember, this is my annotation from the narration research. I go to grid. Let's close this Zoom thing. I go to grid, and it asks me to choose a tier. So let's choose the narrative tier. Which narration do I want to look at? I want to look at narrative 7, for example. It directly goes to places where I have narrative 7 as an annotation. So this is the 7th clip that corresponds. Watch, I directly go to that. I sort like this is a search function. Or I can maybe choose GTR1, which is like a grammatical tool that they use for reference. Did they use a nominal? Did they use a noun? Did they use pronoun? Did they use a verb to refer to something? I see, and there are many, so from the same participant, there are many things. I say, I want to look at cases, instances, where the participant only use a noun, right? I just choose their noun. This is one instance where participant use a noun. So you can go to this, play it again and again, try to see it, try to understand whether something funny is going on, or to examine, analyze that. I want to see cases where the participant use a verb. Here they use the verb. Which verb is it? There is also coded here. Girmek, çıkmak, for example. Maybe the participant is talking about the mouse hiding somewhere, for example. Okay, so this is how you can use the grid part. One final thing I would like to show you is this is a cool feature, find and replace in multiple files, and this is one of the strongest features of ELAN. So this is why this program is great, and you are here to learn it. Kudos. Okay. So ELAN has this function. So let's go here. If you go to search, there are multiple search options, but the first one, or one of them, is search multiple EAF. EAF is the ELAN output, the annotation output. It's called, the extension is called EAF. So let's go to that. Search multiple EAF. Before searching anything, you have to define search domain. Let's define it. If you don't, probably you will not have a predetermined or pre-selected domain. So what you need to do is to click on new domain, add folder. So let's imagine a scenario where you have, you annotated 30 participants. You have 30 different ELAN files for 30 different participants. You want to search in all of them. And you want to have that option to everybody. Here you want to search something. Then you must include the folder with all the ELAN files in it. So I'm going to add folder, and I'm going to say narration is the name of the folder. It has all the participants' EAF files, ELAN files. I click on open. Okay. You can give a name and use it for later, for you to not to do that again, repeat this. You can say, well, this is my narration research. The search domain is narration, 2020 time-wise. Then I say, okay. Then it freezes. This is what I do. Let's define search time. It's here. It just took some time, took some seconds. Then I click on load the search domain. I guess it's loaded. Then we can start searching for stuff. Maybe we can start searching for pair name. Search. It found, this is labor, right? It found almost 900 occurrences or 900 annotations in 19 different files. So there are 19 participants. In all 19 participants, I coded pair name 900 times. So you can see all the instances where you did that, basic annotation by annotation. And if you click on just one case, one instance, it will directly open that participant's ELAN file and that clip, that part of the clip. So let's say I'm interested in this guy's answer. It immediately opens this participant's ELAN file and it shows me where this pair noun is used in the video. So this is one option. This is like a corpus search function of ELAN, which can be used if you're interested. Another search function of ELAN is this here. It's called structured search multiple EF. So we just did search multiple EF before, but you can also do the same for structured search multiple EF. So let's do that. Here I go, okay, close this, not interested. Search, structure search, I say. All right, so again, you need to define domain, but yay, we already defined our domain, narration 2020. I'm going to load that. Okay, what do I need to find? What do you want to find in the data? You can say, figure now, because I'm not good with examples. And then you can say find. Okay. Differently from before, it now shows me the concurrence. Like what comes before, what comes after, among all the participants' EAF files. So like a simple corpus search, but for sign language or for gesture. We have multiple corpora tools and analyzers, but these are mostly for spoken languages. This enables an option in which you can search for concurrence or word frequency, sign frequency for visual modality, or any kind of annotation, not necessarily words. So, for example, if you click basically choose one annotation, one concurrence, and click, this basically means, so let me try to explain what it means. So this is before a pair noun in that narrative. If just before that, the participant used another pair noun, probably introduced Tom, introduced Jerry with using nominals. By using nominals, introduced Jerry, said mouse, right? Jerry is the mouse. And Tom said cat. So pair noun. Then in the third sentence, say just ran, use a plain word. So you see the sequence pair noun, plain word. So when they refer to the same entity, let's say Jerry, so it's like there is this mouse here, dot, end of the clause, prosodic break. ran away when, narrating stuff. So the second time after the nominal, after the bare noun, we have plain work as a reference strategy. So the cool part is just not that. If you right click, you can say show frequency view by annotation. If you click on that, you can see the frequency. Let's also try to do something else. Okay, let's search for something else for this to be more informative. Introduction, let's write. All right, so for example, I'm using still the same frequency tool. So there are 3 categories, right? A referent can be introduced for the first time into the discourse, maintained in the same adjacent clauses. The same referent could be the same subject in the next clause. They could be next to each other, maintained reference, or they could be reintroduced into the context. So here, when I type introduce into the frequency count, it shows me whether introduction is more common or reintroduction is more common in narrative, in reference track. So I see that out of all these tokens, reintroduction cases are more common by 57%. Or you can basically analyze classifiers. CL. The most common one is body part classifier. So these are like sign language terminology, and followed by whole entity classifier. So you don't have to do your exam. It just calculates the frequency of like the same categories, controlled vocabulary for you, whatever you have. They use more verbs. They use fewer adjectives. For example, it calculates that and gives you an output. All right, I think this must span, right? Concordance view, frequency view. If you just type now, for example, did I lose it? Yeah, anyway. It would show me the distribution of all the nouns, if the modifier without a modifier, so on. You can also process multiple files. I'm not going to go into details for that, but you can, there is a slide available. You can try that yourself. And there are also cool stuff that you can do with ELAN. For example, a view annotation sheet, view statistics and density plot. Just for fun, just try to do. You go to basically view, and let's do an annotation density plot because the name sounds really fancy, and I wonder what it does for me. So remember, this is the work of 120 hours spent in front of a computer. So I click on density plot, so I see the density for each annotation. So something called GTR2 is very frequently annotated, but almost every GTR1 has been annotated. So there are more instances of GTR1 than compared to others. You can also do view statistics. And you can see the statistics here, like average duration, for example. It gives you the average duration for some tier. You can view the statistics for participants, for annotator. Okay. This is, I think, all the functions I wanted to show you about ELAN. Do you have any questions so far? Information load, right? So no questions, but you are very excited to start your own research using ELAN, I guess. Okay, so there is this demonstration part, but I don't think we need to do that. We kind of really did the demonstration. So basically you create tiers, types, if you want to add vocabulary, parent tier, child tier, then off you go. You can start annotating stuff, you can export, you can work something. So here we have the practice session, and we can maybe give 5-minute, 10-minute break before that. And the practice session can be for another 10 minutes or 5 minutes, maybe. So in 15 to 20 minutes, we can wrap up, but with a break, of course, now. Okay, so I created a GitHub file repository online. So you can scan the QR code here to go to the GitHub repository. There are like tutorial videos I made available for you. You can scan the code and go to the files. You can open the same file on your computer. When you go to the file, first you will find these slides. So yay. Second, you will find two different data, multimodal data. One, if you're interested in sign languages, there is a 30-second sign language clip from another research of mine. You can annotate that. I will show you how to do that if you're interested in annotation. Second, if you're interested in annotating speech and gesture at the same time, maybe you're interested in this question, there is another folder if you want to annotate speech and gesture. It is provided open access by the MPI. So there is one professor who is talking about how to get to a place, but using a lot of gestures and speech. But I will not bore you with transcriptions. I already provide you with the transcriptions. So each word has been transcribed for you. I just want you to do those very small tasks for each element. What do I mean? Let me show you. So the first speech and gesture data set, if you want to work on this for some reason, it's better if I show you this way. So on GitHub, there is speech gesture folder. And when you download the folder into your computer, but you have to download ELAN, of course. You click on the EF folder file, then choose the video. This is the data for gesture and speech, if you want to do that. Let's first watch the video before the break. This is, all right, let's go to the beginning.
The institute to the Anasar, and then you go to the Anasar to the center of the town for this big.
Yeah, first watch the video before the break. All right, this is the YouTube thing. Because okay, anyway, so you got the gist, right? Basically, somebody is describing how to get to somewhere. The transcriptions are already, I entered the transcript, it was available on MPI. I keep the transcriptions. I want you to do a very small task. If you have computers and if you have the time for the next 10 minutes, few minutes, I want you to do only this. Your task is simple. Create one tier called gesture. This professor is using a lot of gestures in this 30-second video clip. So when does each gesture start and end? Create a tier, mark it, annotate its gesture, start and end of it. And second, if you're interested, you can do it at home, by the way. You'll keep this if you want to try ELAN. The second thing I want you to do, if you have the time, is motion event type. For example, some gesture that can, for example, when talk about getting to a place, the professor did something like that, right? This is, for example, indicating path, like the direction to somewhere. This gesture is about a direction, this way, path. Just have another tier called motion event type. And if the gesture is about a direction, you can have two options. Remember controlled vocabulary. Path, the other option could be manner. Manner, and an example for manner is this, how the action is completed, like rolling, for example. This is the manner, this is the path, for example. For each gesture, there are, I think, very few gestures included in this video. If you want to try it out, do these two tiers, right, for the next 10 minutes. Gesture and motion event type. Motion event type with two options, basically manner and type. If you want to do the sign language data set at home or here, this is taken, the video is taken from our paper, where basically, okay, let me show you, it's easier to explain when I show you the data. All right, let me open. I say sign language and open the EF. Okay, I had to blur the face of the participants, so ethical reasons. But this is very simple. We asked the participant to come up with as many signs as possible for the topic relatives, father, mother, cousin, like any relatives. Say all these signs in 60 seconds, 1 minute. And we annotated each sign. So if you don't know any sign language, I made your jobs easier. I have the gloss for each sign what it means in Turkish. But if you're not a native speaker of Turkish, good luck using Google Translate. Anyway, so I want you to write. So the task is simple. I hope. The task is to learn ELAN. Create 2 tiers. First, English translation for each sign. There are a few, maybe 10, 12, maybe you can try it at home. Try English translation for each sign, create a tier, write the English translations. And English translation can be the child tier of the gloss tier. So it can be occupy the same place in annotation. Second, accuracy. I also want you to code accuracy. What do I mean by accuracy? If, for example, you'll have 2 options, 2 controlled vocabulary, correct or incorrect. But how are you going to decide that for each sign? Well, if the participants signed an entry, signed a noun, but repeated that a few seconds later, this is going to be incorrect. Repetitions we don't allow for this experiment. So anything not repeated will be correct. If something is repeated for the second or third time or more, it's going to be incorrect. So also have for each annotation correct or incorrect use. You can do that with edit vocabulary. So we can take a break here, and depending on like how many people stay for the practice part, for 10 minutes, people with laptops and so on, we can see, we can finish together then. So let's say 5 to 10 minutes. And also, if you want to start working now, you can. I'll be here and I can help you if you want to work on it. Okay, so break. Okay, we can start. So are you working on it? Did you download ELAN, for example? Have you experienced any problems, etc.? Do you have any questions up to this point? Or should we just go over how you should approach the tasks? So, okay, let's start with the first one. So any questions so far? I guess no. So, okay, let's start with the sign language one. So first I needed to create a tier called translation. Then I'm going to translate each sign. So to do that, first, I'm going to go tier. Is tier going to have controlled vocabulary options? No, this tier, no, right? Because English translation doesn't have any options. So we don't need to create type for that. Just create tier. Say English translation. Okay, parent tier, you can choose now sign gloss. Parent tier. Okay. So it doesn't allow us to pick that because we didn't create a type. Let's first start by creating the type. Okay, translation. Time subdivision, that's right. By the way, the difference between time subdivision and included in is this. The difference between two options. In included in, basically, let's say that the translation tier is the child tier for sign gloss. Okay, you are following so far. The translation tier is the child tier for sign gloss. However, if you choose the option included in, you can still make smaller selections. Just like this. You can choose this part and only annotate that part within the parent tier. You can annotate specific parts of the parent tier, just a time frame, guys. If you do something like that, wider than the parent tier, if you just choose a wider time frame, wider range, then it automatically only pick the parts of the parent tier. It eliminates the other, it cuts off the other parts. This is included in, still child-parent relationship, but included in allows you to have smaller you can still have the option to annotate smaller parts, just like this one or this one or this one. For example, you are interested in only the second part of the sign. So you can annotate that part if you choose included in and not the time one. But if I choose here, when I create a type, I write, for example, okay, translation. And I choose as a stereotype, if I choose time subdivision, it is not going to allow me to, let me show you an example. Let's write translation 2. I'm going to basically add the tiers to these types. So translation 1, we have parent tier, sign gloss, tier type, translation. All right. I click on add. Remember, I also created a type called translation 2, which had not the included in option, but the time option, time subdivided. Translation 2, I write parent tier. Sign gloss. Gloss will be the parent for both of them. Tier type, translation 2 now, because the second one has the time option. I click on add. So you see the difference between them is this. In translation 1, you can select only a certain part and write the translation further. But if you try to do that in translation 2, it only takes everything. You can only annotate basically to the size of the parent tier only and nothing smaller than the parent tier. This is different. So let me show you that again. Let's say translation 2 has been created with the time subdivided option as its stereotype. If I try to pick only small part of the parent, like the first few milliseconds, If I click on it, it takes everything still. It takes whatever is in the parent tier. It doesn't allow me to modify it into smaller parts. So father. But when I chose included in translation one, like the type of it, the stereotype of it, I can basically annotate smaller parts of the parent tier if you choose that option. But regardless of what you choose, okay, so if you choose still translation one, translation two, they are still the child tier of the parent tier class. If you choose some area larger than the parent tier, both of them will only take the parent tier because they are parent-child relationship. You cannot annotate larger than the parent tier if you have that option, if you selected this. So again, groom. Okay, same goes for if I pick a larger part, it will only, I can't even annotate here. So I have to choose, then annotate only this part. So you see the different times I've divided and included, and this is just small detail, but you can do that basically. All right, let me remove, basically to remove it here, you just go to delete translation two. Let's just remove that, it's extra. Yes, okay. To delete, basically to, all right. To delete, sometimes it does this. To delete an annotation, you just right click and click on delete annotation. Okay. Then you can add, for example, grandmother, the English translation of it, and basically cover everything, you know, until the last annotation. You just annotate and finish it. The other thing was to include a tier called correct or incorrect. And in that, you have to control vocabulary. So add type, accuracy, let's write accuracy, stereotype. Okay, include it in, fine. Use control vocabulary. We will use it later. Let's create the control vocabulary. Let's go edit control vocabulary. Let's create a control called accuracy. And we have two options, correct at entry value or incorrect, second option. And what do we do now? We edit the type. Type, change tier type, choose accuracy, then choose accuracy again for control vocabulary, change. Then one final step is to create the tier, add tier, accuracy. Then as the parent tier, you can wish to choose gloss again. And tier type will be accuracy this time. All right, all done. Now, when you go to the sign and click on it, you have two options, correct or incorrect. Since this is the first time we see babaanne, it's going to be correct. However, later, so you see here we have kardeş. The fourth one is kardeş. Later, we see a kardeş again. The signer forgets that he signed this sign before and repeats it, mistakes it. Then you're going to code brother as a translation. But it's going to just choose incorrect because this is a repetition. Just like that, this is how you could create vocabulary. This is it for the sign language part. For basically, this is the same logic for the gesture and going to start of the gesture, end of the gesture. Just create a tier. Just create a tier called gesture. Sure. Just choose the gesture. Here, for example, the difference is that the gesture tier and the IPA, the transcription tier, don't have to be aligned the same because maybe the gesture starts before speech or after speech, or just it doesn't have to be strictly related. So you don't need to have included in or time as is stereotype. So you can choose the gestures, and again, you need to add controlled vocabulary. To do that, you go to edit controlled vocabulary. For this one, you can say motion event, it's the question. Add manner and path are the two options of each gesture, manner, path. Okay, all done, close. Then create the type, right? Let's create the type. Let's call it motion. Choose. Do we need stereotypes? Maybe not. Use control vocabulary, motion event. We created that. Add. What is the last thing I should do here? What is the last step? I created the vocabulary. I created type, but I don't see it appearing on the left panel. Tier. I need to create this tier. Add tier. Motion event. Parent tier, not necessary. Or gesture is the parent here, right? Because it's going to be dependent on gesture. It's a type of it. And okay. As a tier type, let's see type, change tier type. We created a type called motion. Do you remember? Let's call included in. Okay. Then tier, change tier attributes. Well, we don't. Okay, let's create a tier now, add new tier, motion, parent tier gesture, tier type motion, add. Okay. So when you choose this gesture annotation, choose it. Yeah. Click on motion, you see manner and path as options. This gesture is path, showing you the path of direction of sound. So choose path. Let's path. Gesture, manner. Here. All right. So do another annotation. This part. Let's say this is the beginning of the gesture. Then, okay, this is path now. Like that. Then you can export and write your paper. It's exciting. So let's see if you have any questions. Okay. Could be. Could be. Yeah, uncle. The reason, you can add that yourself, for example. You couldn't add it? So, okay, where does the sign begin? Maybe here. Yeah, something here. And it's here. Sunglass, say, uncle. Translation. Correct. Yeah, each annotation double click. Yeah. To start writing in it, double click for each annotation. All right, so we are out of time anyways. So do you have any other questions? You can always email me if you have any other questions. So thank you all for attending, and I hope this was fruitful to you. And yeah, that's all. Thank you. Also, let's write thanks to our YouTube. There are still eager 3 participants. We didn't lose them, just one. It happens. Then okay, thank you again for participating. Let me close our Zoom.